The cold hit me first, not the gentle cold of a winter morning, but a deep, freezing pain that felt like knives, pushing into every part of my body. My eyes snapped open, and for one long moment I could not remember who I was, where I was, or why my lungs were screaming for air. Then the glass door of my sleep pod cracked open with a loud hiss and froze, and mist poured out around me. I fell forward onto a metal floor that was covered in dust. My hands shook, my legs would not hold me. I coughed hard and my throat burned like fire. A red light blinked above my head. Soft voice spoke from the walls, old and tired, like a machine that had been waiting alone for a very long time. Commander Adrian Cross, you are awake. Please remain calm. Your body needs time to recover. I tried to speak. Nothing came out but a dry whisper. I pushed myself up on my hands and looked around. The room was huge, maybe 200 steps long. Rows and rows of sleep pods stretched into the dark. Most of them had gone dark too. Black glass, no blinking lights, no one inside breathing. My crew. I crawled to the nearest pod. Through the frost I could see the face of a young woman, Lisa Bennett, my navigation officer. Her skin was gray, her eyes were closed forever. I pressed my hand against the cold glass and felt something break inside my chest. How long, I whispered, how long was I asleep? The voice of the ship answered me. Its name was Warden, the old guardian program that had watched over us while we slept. Commander, you have been in cold sleep for 8,042 years. I did not understand the words at first. My mind would not accept them. I said them to myself again and again. 8,000 years, 8,000. I sat down on the cold floor and stared at my shaking hands. The skin was pale, almost white. I was 43 years old when I entered this pod. My body had not aged one day, but the universe outside, everything I had ever known, every person I had ever loved, every city, every star map I had memorized, all of it was gone. Warden, I said slowly, how many of us are still alive? There was a long pause. The old machine was counting. Out of 12,400 crew members in cold sleep, 41 are still alive, including you, Commander. 41. I closed my eyes. I could see their faces. I could see my captain, old Henry Blake, laughing at one of his own jokes in the mess hall. And GT snorts. And GT. I could see young Peter Hall, my engineer, only 20 years old when he volunteered. I could see Myra Fox, who had promised me she would cook me a real dinner when we reached safe space. All of them, most of them, gone in there sleep without ever waking up. I forced myself to stand. My knees shook, but they held. I had to see. I had to know. Warden, show me outside. Show me where we are. A wall screen flickered to life. It was cracked and dim, but it still worked. I saw the view from the outside of our ship. We were deep inside the rocky shell of a dead moon, hidden in a forgotten corner of a star system no one cared about. Our three old warships sat like giant sleeping animals in the hollow cave we had carved out so long ago. The stone around us had not moved. The silence was complete. Beyond the moon, through a narrow gap in the rocks, I could see open space. Stars, a pale red gas giant planet, turning slowly in the distance. Warden, I said, tell me about the outside. Tell me what happened while we were gone. The machine spoke for a long time. I stood there listening, and with every word I felt my heart grow colder. The empire that had hunted us, the great alliance of aliens called the Conquered, had not fallen, they had grown, they now ruled most of the galaxy. 17 different alien species lived under their control. Trillions of lives, hundreds of thousands of worlds they had built. Cities on stars we had never even seen. And humanity was gone. Not just defeated, not just beaten. Forgotten. Commander Warden said softly, in the modern records of the Conquered, humans are listed as a minor extinct species. They are mentioned in old children's stories. Parents tell young ones that if they do not behave, the skin wearers will come for them in the night, the ghost walkers, the wolves from the dark. But no one believes these stories are real. The Conquered teaches its students that humanity died out long ago and was never a serious threat. I stood very still, my hands slowly closed into fists. A children's story, a bedtime scare. That was all we were now, a word that mothers used to frighten their babies too. Sleep. Warden, I said, my voice was steady. Now the shaking was gone. Wake the others, every single one who is still alive. I want them on the command deck. In 6 hours. Yes, Commander. I walked slowly down the long rows of dead pods, and I made myself look at every face. I owed them that much, every name, every memory. I said each one out loud as I passed. By the time I reached the end of the hall, I was no longer the man who had gone to sleep 8,000 years ago. That man had died somewhere in the long cold dark. The man walking out of that room was something harder, something sharper. 6 hours later, I stood in the command deck with 40 other survivors. Some were officers I had known well, some I barely remembered. They all looked the way I felt, hollow, lost, angry, afraid. Captain Ellie Ward stood at the front with me. She had been my second in command. Her dark hair was cut short now. Her eyes were red but dry. Sir, she said quietly, what are your orders? I looked at them all, 41 people, 3 old ships, a galaxy that had forgotten we ever existed. We have 2 choices, I said. My voice was calm. We can hide here until we die of old age. The Conquered will never find us. We will never be a problem to anyone ever again. Our names will stay lost. Our story will end in this cave. No one spoke. They were waiting. Or I said, we remind them. I stepped forward. I looked every single one of them in the eye, one at a time. They think we are a story. They think we are a joke. They think the wolves in the dark are not real. I paused. I say we show them how real we are. For a long moment there was only silence, and then Ellie Ward smiled. It was a small smile, cold and sharp, and it spread slowly to the others. Peter Dale, our weapons officer, nodded once. Old Dr. Frank Lowe, who had patched up more broken soldiers than anyone I ever knew, straightened his back and stood taller. One by one, every person in that room lifted their chin. No one cheered, no one shouted. We were past that kind of thing, but every eye in that room said the same thing. Yes. I turned to the main screen. Warden brought up a map of the galaxy spread out in soft blue light. The Conquered territory glowed across most of it. 1,000 stars, 10,000 too many to count. Warden, I said, find us a quiet place on the edge of their space, somewhere small, somewhere they will not expect trouble. Scanning, Commander. The map zoomed in. A small red dot appeared at the far edge of Concord. Space, a border trading station. The kind of place where ships stopped to refuel, where traders met, where soldiers got bored and dropped there. Guard. That one, I said. Warden, bring the ships back to full power. Do it slowly. Do it quietly. I do not want one whisper of energy leaving this moon until we are ready to move. Yes, Commander. Estimated time for full readiness is 37 days. 37 days. It felt like a long time and no time at all. I turned back to my people. Rest, I told them. Eat, remember your training, remember who we are. In 5 weeks we leave this cave, and when we do, we will be ghosts, quiet, patient, smart. We do not make noise. We do not fight for glory. We fight to survive and to learn, one step at a time. I looked at Ellie. We were forgotten, I said. That is going to change. She nodded once. The old ships began to hum around us, slowly coming back to life after 8,000 years of silence. Somewhere in the deep metal bones of my flagship, something was waking up, something old, something patient. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the wolves were not just a story. And the wolves were coming home. The trading station was called Velter, and it hung in space like a dirty silver wheel spinning slowly above a warm green world covered in thick jungles. From my seat on the bridge of my flagship, I watched it grow larger on the main screen. Our 3 ships were painted black now, their old markings covered, their signals hidden. To any scanner that looked our way, we would appear as a small group of trading ships carrying ore from the outer mines. That was the plan. Slip in quiet, learn everything, slip out quieter. Commander, Ellie said from her station. We are being scanned. Light pass only. Standard station security. Let them look, I answered. We have nothing to hide today. I leaned back in my chair and looked around the bridge. My crew was thin. Only 9 of us could fit on this deck at once. The rest were spread across the other 2 ships or working below on systems that had not been used in 8,000 years. Every face was calm, every hand was steady, but I could see the tightness in their shoulders. We were about to walk into the lion's mouth. Peter Dale spoke from the weapons station. He was younger than most of us, only 31 when we went to sleep. He had a sharp face and eyes that never seemed to blink. Sir, I count 60 ships near the station. Most are traders, small, no danger, but I see 4 Concord patrol craft on the far side. Good ships, new design. They have weapons I have never seen before. Good, I said. We are here to learn. Record everything. A voice crackled over the radio, a rough alien voice speaking in the common trade language which Warden had taught us. Over the past month, the speaker sounded bored. Unknown trade vessels, this is Velter. Control, state your cargo and your business. I nodded to Ellie, and she pressed the reply button. Velter Control, we are carrying raw metal ore from the core Abelt. We are here to trade and to refuel. There was a pause. I held my breath. Approved, Docket Bay 19. Welcome to Velter. I let out a slow breath. The first test was passed. Now came the hard part. 30 minutes later, I walked off my ship into the station itself. I wore a long gray coat with a deep hood. Under it I had a simple trader's outfit, nothing special. Ellie walked beside me dressed the same way. Peter and 2 others came Behind us, we all carried small hidden weapons, but we were not here to use them, not yet. The station was loud and crowded. Aliens of every shape pushed past us. I saw tall, thin creatures with 4 arms and skin like smooth bark. I saw short, fat beings with 3 eyes stacked on top of each other. I saw huge, armored warriors with horns and tails stomping through the crowd like angry bulls. Not one of them looked at us twice. To them, we were just more short, skinny traders. Easy to forget. And that was perfect. Commander, Ellie whispered as we walked. Look at their technology. Look at their clothes. Look at their weapons. I was already looking, and what I saw surprised me. These people were not as far ahead of us as I had feared. Yes, they had 8,000 years of advantage, but their ships, their tools, their guns, none of them had jumped far beyond what we had built in our own time. Their weapons were better made, cleaner, more polished, but the ideas behind them were old, very old, nothing new, nothing sharp. It was as if the conquered had stopped inventing things long ago, as if they had become so sure of their power that they had gone to sleep. Peter spoke softly behind me. Sir, I am reading the energy signatures of these weapons. I could build half of these in my sleep. The other half would take me maybe a week. I almost smiled, almost. We moved through the market buying small things, listening carefully. I spoke a few words of trade language, keeping my voice low. Ellie bought drinks. Peter pretended to argue with a tool merchant. We were just traders, boring, forgettable. But we were listening, we were watching. And slowly a picture formed in my head. The conquered was old, fat, slow. Their soldiers were well trained, but they had not fought a real enemy in hundreds of years. They kept order by fear and by habit. Their ruling species, called the Valen, lived on a beautiful crystal world at the heart of the empire and almost never left it. They sent orders. Others obeyed. The whole system had grown lazy. As I walked through that station, I began to see something I had not expected. We could do this. 41 of us, 3 old ships. We could actually do this. But we needed more. We needed ships. We needed people. We needed to find out if any other humans had survived, hidden somewhere the conquered had missed. And we needed information, hard information, the kind you could not buy in a market. That night, Ellie and I sat in a small rented room in the back of the station. Peter stood at the door. The lights were dim, a small machine on the table hummed softly as Warden, speaking through a tiny radio in my ear, scanned the station's computer network. Commander, Warden said, I have found their main data core. It is protected, but the protection is old. I can enter without being seen. What do you want me to look for? Everything, I said. Maps, patrol routes, fleet positions, and Warden. Search their oldest files, the sealed ones, anything marked as dead or forbidden, anything about us. Yes, Commander. The machine went silent for a long time. My heart began to beat faster. If the station security caught us, we would have to fight our way out, and that would end our mission before it even began. I made myself sit still. I counted my breaths. Then Warden spoke again. Commander, I have found something you must see. The small screen on the table lit up. Files appeared, old files, very old, marked with a red symbol I remembered from the war, a symbol that meant danger, keep out, deadly. And at the top of the list was a single line: humanity extinct, file sealed by order of the High Council, do not open. Under that, a list of star systems, dozens of them, each marked with the same warning: biological danger, do not approach. Extinct colony, do not approach. Contamination site, do not approach. My mouth went dry. Ellie, I said quietly, look at these. She leaned over my shoulder and read. Her eyes grew wide. Adrian, she whispered, these are old human colonies, worlds we lost during the war. The conquered marked them as dead, but look at the dates. These warnings were updated only 100 years ago. Only 100. Why would you update a warning about a dead world 100 years ago? I stared at the screen. My hands were cold. Because, I said slowly, they are not sure the worlds are dead. We looked at each other. The same thought was in both our minds. What if we were not the only ones? Warden, I said, copy every single one of these files. Copy everything you can about these quarantine worlds. We are leaving tonight. Yes, Commander. Just as Warden finished the copy, I heard Peter's voice in my ear, sharp and quick. Sir, we have a problem. Station security just passed our dock. They are checking our ship. I stood up so fast the chair fell behind me. Reason. Random check, they say, but 2 more patrol officers just joined them. That is not random, sir. How long until they open the ship? Maybe 10 minutes. I looked at Ellie. She was already moving, closing down our small machine, erasing every trace of our work. I spoke calmly into my radio. All teams quiet, pull back, head to the ship through different routes. Do not run, do not draw eyes. Peter, stall them, be polite, offer them tea. Whatever it takes, buy us 8 minutes. Yes, sir. We left the room and walked back into the main hall of the station. My heart was hammering, but my face was calm. Ellie laughed next to me like I had just told her a joke. We looked like 2 traitors heading back to work. A huge armored alien with horns pushed past me. I stepped aside politely. He grunted and moved on. Halfway to the dock, I saw them, 4 station guards walking toward our ship. Peter was in front of them, smiling, waving his hands, talking fast. He was showing them fake papers, asking them questions about the station's food, pretending to be lost. The guards were getting annoyed. One of them looked up and saw me. For one long moment, our eyes met. He was a tall creature with smooth gray skin and black eyes like deep pools. Vrelk, I remembered from old records, a warrior species, strong, smart, dangerous. His eyes narrowed. He stared at me, little too long. Then he raised one hand and pointed right at me. You, he called out in trade language. Trader, come here. I want to see your papers. I did not run. I walked toward him. Slowly, I kept my hood low. Ellie walked at my side. Peter behind him raised his eyebrows at me, asking what I wanted to do. I gave the smallest nod. Stay calm, stay soft. I stopped in front of the Vrelk guard and reached into my coat as if for papers. My fingers found something else. A small device Warden had made for me. Pulse, silent, harmless, but it would freeze every electronic lock on the station for exactly 10 seconds. I pressed it. Every light in the station flickered. Every door froze. Every radio went quiet. The guards looked up confused. Now, I said. Peter moved first. He stepped behind the Lead guard and tapped a pressure point. On his neck, the Vrelk dropped like a stone asleep. The other 3 guards turned, but Ellie and I were already past them, moving fast toward the ship. Run, I said. We ran not in fear, in purpose. My crew poured out of side corridors and joined us, and in under a minute we were all on board. The ramp closed behind us. The engines hummed. Warden already had us pulling away from the dock before station control could even reboot. Jump in 3, Ellie called. 2, 1. The stars stretched into lines of light, and Velter disappeared behind us. On the bridge I stood very still. My heart was still beating fast, but I was smiling a small quiet smile. Commander, Warden said, I heard a message just before we jumped. The Vrel guard who saw you, he spoke one word as he fell asleep. What word? Skinwalker. I looked at Ellie. Her smile matched mine. Peter laughed once softly. The legend remembered. Somewhere deep in the old archives of the Conquered, someone would soon open a sealed file, a file marked with warnings, thousands of years old. Someone would read a name that had not been spoken by serious minds in a very long time, and they would begin to wonder. The wolves were back. The files Warden had stolen from Velter changed everything. For 3 weeks we studied them in the dark, hidden deep in empty space, moving from one cold system to another. We barely slept. We barely ate. We read every sealed world, every forbidden system, every warning the Conquered had left floating in their databases for thousands of years. And slowly, a pattern began to form. Not all of those worlds were truly dead. I sat at the long table in my ship's meeting room. Ellie sat across from me. Peter stood near the wall, arms folded. Dr. Frank Lowe, our oldest surviving officer at 61 years old, leaned over glowing map of the galaxy. His gray beard was neat. His eyes were sharp. Look at this one, Frank said, pointing to a red dot on the map. Kepler Reach. Old human colony. The Conquered says it was wiped out 8,000 years ago, but here. Look at this recent scan, only 70 years old. They found trace metals in the upper air. Trace metals, Adrian, you know what makes trace metals in the air of a desert world? Factories, I said quietly. Or fires or burning fuel. Someone is alive down there, cousin. Someone is working. I stared at the map. My heart felt heavy and light at the same time. Frank, how many of these worlds do you think still have people? He rubbed his beard. Hard to say. Out of 64 sealed human systems, I would guess 12 to 20 still have living colonies, some small, some maybe larger. The Conquered stopped going close to these worlds because they believed the stories. They believed we were dangerous, even in death, so they left us alone. And in being alone, some of us survived. I looked at Ellie. She was quiet, thinking. Adrian, she said finally, if even one of these worlds has people, we need to find them. We cannot do this with only 41 soldiers. I know. We need to go to Kepler Reach first. She said it is the closest. The signs are the clearest. If there are people there, they are our starting point. I nodded slowly. The journey to Kepler Reach took 11 days. Through the deep dark, we moved in silence, taking strange paths, avoiding every Conquered patrol route. When we finally came out of the jump and saw the planet for the first time, I stood up from my chair. It was a hard world, orange and red and Brown, a desert planet with only a few small blue spots that might be lakes or small seas. The sun was pale yellow. Air looked thin. Long years ago our people had come here and tried to make it green. They had built machines to pull water from the rocks and air from the soil. They had worked hard. And then the conquered had come and the green had died. But something still moved down there. I could feel it in my bones before any scanner told me. Commander Peter said, watching his screens. I am reading heat signs, small ones, scattered deep underground in something else. Energy, old energy, human energy. Patterns, I am sure of it. I gripped the back of Ellie's chair. Take us down, I said, slow, careful. Land far from any settlement. I do not want to scare them. We landed in a wide, empty valley between two red rock mountains. The sun beat down hot. When the ramp opened, hot, dry air blew in and hit me in the face. I walked down the ramp in a simple suit. No weapons showing, only a small water pack on my back. Ellie and Peter walked behind me. 3 others stayed on the ship. The rocks stretched out around us like the bones of some giant dead animal. Wind whistled through stone holes. There was no sign of life, no road, no smoke. Nothing. But I knew they were watching. I stood in the middle of that valley and raised both my empty hands. We are friends, I called out. My voice echoed off the rocks. We come from the dark. We are like you. We are looking for you. Silence, only the wind. I waited. I did not move. Ellie stood beside me, Peter behind. 10 minutes passed 15. And then from behind a large red rock, a single figure stepped out. A child. She was maybe 9 years old, small and thin, with long dark hair and skin tanned deep brown by the desert sun. She wore rough clothes made from animal hide. In her small hand she held a short, sharp spear. She looked at me with huge, serious eyes. She was human. My throat closed up. I could not speak. I just stared. Adrian, Ellie whispered beside me. I could hear that she was crying. I did not look at her. I could not. The girl walked slowly toward me. She stopped about 10 steps away. She looked me up and down, and then she looked at Ellie and then at Peter. She said one word, a word in old human speech, a word I had not heard in 8,000 years. Sky. I knelt down on one knee so my face was level with hers. Yes, I said softly, we came from the sky. She blinked slowly, then she turned her head and whistled a sharp, high sound. From behind every rock in that valley, people stepped out, dozens of them, men and women, old and young, all of them armed with spears, bows, and strain guns cobbled together from old parts. They had been there the whole time. Dozens of bows had been pointed at my back for the last 20 minutes. If I had made one wrong move, I would have been over. I understood that now. The leader of the group was a tall woman with silver hair and a scar across her cheek. She walked up to me with hard eyes, but I could see her hands shaking. She looked at my face for a long time, then at my clothes, then at the ship behind me, half hidden in the valley. You are really from the sky, she said. Her voice was rough, like she did not speak often. Her language was strange, but I could understand it. It was an old form of our own tongue, twisted by 8,000 years of time. Yes, I said. Our old stories say the Sky Fathers would come back one day. Is it true? Are you the ones? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to give her every good word in the world, but I had never been good at lying to my own people. I do not know if I am the one from your stories, I said, but I am human. My name is Adrian Cross. I was a commander in a fleet that hid from the conquered. 8,000 years ago, we have been asleep in the dark all this time. We woke up a few months ago and we came looking for anyone who was left. She stared at me, and then her hard face broke just a little. One tear slid down her scarred cheek. She did not wipe it away. My name is Sarah Vale, she said. I am the chief of the Deep Rock people. We are the last of Kepler Reach. 4,000 of us live in the caves under this valley. We have held on for a very long time. We thought we were the last humans in the universe. She stepped forward and put her hand on my shoulder. You are home, Adrian Cross. That was how it began. For the next 4 months I lived with the Deep Rock people. I learned their ways. I taught them ours. My crew lived among them, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing tears. The little girl who had found me was named Tess, and she followed me everywhere, asking 1,000 questions about the stars. But the work was serious. Every day spoke with Sarah and her council. We made plans. We listed what we had and what we needed. The Deep Rock people had kept some old human tools safe in deep vaults for thousands of years. Most were broken, some could be fixed, and among them were things I had thought were lost forever. One of those things was a seed bank. Real human seeds, wheat, corn, potatoes, apple trees, frozen and sleeping but alive. I held a small box of apple seeds in my hand and almost cried. I had not tasted an apple in 8,000 years, neither had anyone else alive. But finding Kepler Reach was just the beginning. The stolen conquered files had given us more locations. I could not stay here and rest. I had to keep moving. Every week I waited was another week the conquered might find us. 6 months after we first landed, I gathered my full crew and Sarah's chief warriors. I spread out a map of the galaxy. 7 other worlds, I said. 7 places the old records say might still have our people. I am taking 2 ships. I am leaving 1 ship here to protect Kepler Reach and help build up the colony. Ellie will command that ship. Frank will stay with her. They will help Sarah turn this place into a true base. Ellie did not like it. I could see her face tighten, but she nodded. She understood. Peter comes with me, I said. So does half of my crew. We will find the others. Over the next year, I found them. Not all of them were like the Deep Rock people. Each world had its own story. On the ice world of Haven, I found 9,000 humans living in huge warm caves dug under the ice. They had kept some of their old technology working, but they were a quiet, small people afraid of their own shadows. On the water world of Blue Home, I found 40,000 humans who had changed over the years. They could hold their breath for 20 minutes. Their skin was pale blue-green. They swam faster than any fish, but they welcomed me with open arms and wept when they saw an old human vase. On a broken world called Ashstone, I found only 200 survivors living in the ruins of a dead city. They were tough and angry. Their leader, a hard young man named Noah Price, had been hoping for revenge his whole life. He looked at me and asked only one question. When do we start? Soon, I told him, very soon. By the end of that year, I had counted over 200,000 hidden humans across 11 Worlds, small numbers compared to the trillions of the conquered, but they were skilled, they were angry, they were waiting, and they had been ready for me before I even knew they existed. One cold night on the small moon of an empty world, I sat alone on a hill under a sky full of stars. Peter came and sat beside me. He did not speak at first. "Commander," he said finally, "the conquered has started to notice." "How bad?" "They have sent extra patrols to the border. They are asking questions on Velter. A month ago, 3 of their patrol ships went missing near the edge of our search zone. They think pirates. But pirates do not leave wreckage that looks like ours." I nodded slowly. "They will figure it out soon, sir," Peter said. "I know." We sat in silence for a while. The stars above us were the same stars humans had looked up at for hundreds of thousands of years, the same stars our children had looked at, the same stars the conquered thought they had closed to us forever. "Peter," I said, "call all our ships. Every colony, every leader. I want them at Kepler Reach within the month. It is time to stop hiding." "Yes, sir." He stood up to leave. "And Peter," I added, "sir, tell them to bring everything, every weapon, every working ship, every fighter they can spare. The quiet time is ending." He saluted and walked off into the dark. I stayed on that hill for a long time. I thought about Sarah Vale. I thought about little Tess. I thought about the blue-green swimmers and the angry fighters and the 9,000 quiet people in the ice. They had all been waiting for me without knowing my name. Now it was my turn to be worthy of their waiting. The fleet gathered at Kepler Reach in the hard yellow light of that desert sun. I stood on a high cliff above the valley where little Tess had first stepped out from behind a rock, and I watched ships come down through the clouds. Old ships, new ships, ships built from scrap, ships dug out of old human vaults and flown for the first time in thousands of years. Fighters, carriers, long thin attack craft, round heavy cargo haulers. 246 ships in the end, not many compared to what the conquered had, but more than I had dared to dream about 1 year earlier, when I stood in a dead cave with only 40 other people and an old ship named by Machine. Ellie stood beside me on that cliff. She had changed in the year I had been away. Her face was leaner, her eyes were harder. She commanded respect from every human on this planet now. Sarah Vale had come to trust her like a sister. Frank, low, older but still sharp, stood behind us both, leaning on a walking stick. "Adrian," Ellie said quietly, "we have about 80,000 fighters ready. Real soldiers, the best of every colony. The rest are support, families, children. We must protect them." "I know." "The conquered fleet is moving, sir," Peter called from below. He ran up the hill out of breath. "Warden just finished breaking into a new conquered data stream. They have sent 12 battle fleets toward our area of space. Largest force they have moved in 200 years. 12 fleets, each one was probably bigger than everything we had." I did not feel afraid. I felt clear, like cold water in my mind. "Peter, how long until they reach us?" "Maybe 30 days, sir. They are searching, not striking. They do not know where we are exactly, but they are close." "Then we do not wait for them," I said. "We strike first." Ellie turned to look at me. "Adrian, that is a long chance." "It is the only chance," I said. "If we Let them corner us here, we die. If we go to them on ground we choose, we have a chance, and we take away the one thing they expect. The conquered has not been hit first in 300 years. I turned and walked down the cliff, toward the main gathering hall built into the rock. Ellie, Frank, and Peter followed. That night I stood before every captain in my fleet. 246 faces looked back at me, humans from every colony, swimmers from Blue Home, tall, lean, deep rock fighters, the quiet ice people from Haven, hard-eyed survivors from Ash Stone with Noah Price at their front, my own original crew, 41 in total, each now a commander of their own. I spoke for a long time. I will not say every word here, but I told them who we were. I told them what had been done to our people. I told them that we were not here for anger. We were not here for hate. We were here for something bigger and harder than hate. We were here because our species deserved to live. Not to rule, I said. Not yet, maybe. Not ever, but to live, to stand in the light of the stars again without hiding. To let our children say their names out loud, and if the conquered tries to take that from us again, we will make sure they remember the cost. When I finished, no one cheered. We were past cheering, but every captain stood up, placed one hand on their heart, and gave one slow nod. That was enough. The first strike came at a place called the Tannin Gate. It was a narrow jump point that every conquered fleet had to pass through when moving from the inner empire to the border. A choke point, a bottleneck. If we could close it, we could slow down 11 of those 12 fleets moving toward us and force the last one to fight alone. The conquered kept a small guard fleet at Tannin Gate, about 40 ships, not huge, but their ships were good, and they had never been attacked there in living memory. We hit them with everything. My fleet came out of the jump in 3 waves, exactly as Warden had worked out. With the tides of the gate, the first wave was fighters, hundreds of small, fast attack craft that swarmed the guard fleet before they could even raise their full shields. The second wave was our heavy ships, including my flagship, which I had renamed the Promise. The third wave was a trick, a dozen small ships carrying fake signals made to look like a second huge fleet coming in from another side. The conquered guard, seeing what seemed like 2 fleets, split their power in half. The half that faced us took the full weight of our attack. The half that turned to face nothing wasted 7 minutes, realizing their error. By then it was over. Not one of our ships was lost. 3 were heavily damaged. 11 of theirs were disabled. The rest fled. We captured the gate. I gave the order to seal it with a minefield Peter had designed. Every ship passing through without our code would be stopped. 11 conquered fleets, suddenly cut off from their fastest route to us, had to turn and take the long way around. That gave us weeks. Word spread fast among the conquered, disbelief among the oppressed peoples of the galaxy, a whisper. Someone was standing up. The second strike was smaller but louder. A conquered governor on a border world had been known for decades as a brutal leader. He ruled over a species called the Dorani, who had once been free, but now lived as near slaves under his heavy hand. We hit his palace directly. We did not touch his guards unless they fought. We did not harm the Dorani people. We came. We surrounded him. We took him away. When the Dorani saw what had happened, they rose up themselves. Within a week, their whole world had removed every conquered officer. Within 2 weeks, their elders sent a message to me. It said only 7 words. We join you, tell us where to fight. After that, the message spread, not just to humans, not just to one world. The conquered had ruled 17 species, but many of those species were not happy. They had been crushed long ago and now only obeyed because they had no choice. When they saw a small fleet of ghosts from a dead race winning small victory, after small victory, something long buried began to wake up in them. A young species called the Kesra came to us first, 6-limbed, quick, very smart. They brought 40 of their own ships built in secret over years, hidden in asteroid fields. Their captain, a short-furred being named Tess, at 10 years old by our count, bowed to me and said, "We have waited for someone to go first, now we follow." Then came the Almari, big, gentle creatures with 6 arms and deep voices. They brought 30 ships and 10,000 workers who could fix almost anything. Then came the Draven and the Pel and the Yuri. By the end of the 3rd month, my fleet was no longer only human, it was a flag of many colors, and every one of those colors pointed the same way, toward the center of the galaxy, toward the Conqueror's home. The biggest battle of the war came at a place called the Tannin Nexus, not the small gate we had taken before, but a huge space station that controlled a whole network of jump points. The Conquerors sent 6 of their finest fleets to meet us there, nearly 2,000 ships against our 600. Every officer in my war room looked at the numbers and looked at me. They were not afraid, but they wanted to know the plan. "Ellie," I said, "Peter, Warden, listen." Well, for 3 hours, we built our plan together. When we were done, not one of them spoke. For a long time, Peter finally laughed, a short, hard laugh. "Adrian, this is either the most insane thing I have ever heard or the smartest." "Both," Ellie said, smiling. The battle at Tannin Nexus lasted 19 hours. We did not fight them head-on. We never fought them head-on. Instead, we broke our fleet into small, fast groups, and we moved inside the jump points themselves. We used the natural energy of the jumps to fling our ships at speeds the conquered thought were impossible. Our small fighters came out behind their big ships before their big ships could even turn. Our captains linked mind to machine thought faster than any conquered officer could plan. We moved like a storm of small, sharp stones, not like a giant hammer. The conquered fought well. They were not weak. Some of their commanders were brave and smart. They brought down 21 of our ships. Each loss burned in my chest like a fire. Each captain who went down was a friend. But when the 19th hour ended, the conquered fleets were broken, not destroyed. We let the survivors leave. I would not order the final blow on ships that were already running. That was not our war. The survivors ran, and they told the story, and the story traveled faster than any ship. After Tannin Nexus, 2 more species of the conquered quietly left the alliance. A third opened talks with us. The High Conquered Council, which had ruled the galaxy without challenge for thousands of years, began to argue in public. For the first time, old leaders were pushed aside. New ones, scared and angry, took their place. And on every screen in every populated system, a message began to appear. Simple message, sent out by Warden on a signal the conquered could not block. Humanity has returned. We do not come for blood, we come for justice. Stand aside or stand with us. We will pass no other judgment. One night after the news of Tan and Nexus spread, I stood alone on the observation deck of the Promise. I was tired, my bones ached, my hair had begun to turn gray at the sides. I was 45 years old now, counting only the waking years, but I felt older than the ship beneath my feet. Ellie came and stood beside me. She did not speak at first, she just looked at the stars. Adrian, she said finally, one more battle, the big one, the Valen home world. We are ready, the captains are ready, the allies are ready. I know. Are you ready? I thought for a long moment. I was born for this, I said. I just did not know it until 8,000 years later. Then everyone else. She laughed softly. Old man, she said. Not yet, I answered. One more fight first. Above us, the stars turned slowly. Somewhere deep in the center of the galaxy, the rulers of the conquered were locking their doors and watching their skis. The wolves were at the gate. The world was called Crystallis, the home of the Valen species, the founders of the conquered. It had been untouched by war for over 3,000 years. Its tall glass towers caught the light of its twin suns and threw rainbows across the clouds. It was the most beautiful world I had ever seen, and it was the most heavily defended. I watched it on the main screen of the Promise as my combined fleet dropped out of jump space. 600 ships stretched out around me, humans, Kesra, Almori, Draven, Pel, Yuri, a fleet unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Old wolves and new friends all flying together under one banner. And across from us, above Crystallis, the final conquered fleet, 900 ships, every warship the Valen could still call their own, and every loyal ally they had left. Huge battle cruisers, fast hunters, thick armored fortresses. Their admiral was said to be Vorlag, an old Valen warrior who had never been beaten in any simulation. This was the last battle. Both sides knew it. If we won, the conquered fell. If we lost, we would scatter back into the dark and never rise again. Ellie stood at my right, Peter at my left. Old Frank had come back into the field for this one fight, his walking stick leaning against his chair. Behind me stood 15 officers from 7 species, each one a captain of captains in their own right. Sarah Valen was not with me. She had stayed at Kepler Reach with her people to protect the seeds and the children. But her son, a quiet young man named Gabriel Valen, stood 3 paces behind me, his hand on his belt, ready to carry any order I gave. Commander, Warden spoke softly in my ear. Vorlag is sending a message. He wishes to speak to you directly before the battle. I considered it, then I nodded. Let him speak. The main screen changed. A tall Valen appeared, thin and pale, with 6 long fingers on each hand and eyes like black mirrors. His voice was smooth and calm. He had seen many battles, but none like this. Commander Cross, he said in perfect trade language, I have studied your people. I have studied you. You are a skilled commander, I admit it, but you cannot win here. My fleet outnumbers yours. My defenses are the strongest in the galaxy. Your soldiers are brave, but bravery is not enough against 3,000 years of preparation. I offer you one chance. Turn around now, take your fleet and leave. I will let you go without pursuit. Find a quiet corner of space Rebuild your species. We will not hunt you again. It was a fair offer in way, he meant it. I could see that in his face. Admiral Vorlog, I said slowly, thank you for your offer. I know you are an honorable man, but I cannot accept. He tilted his head. Why not? Because, I said, your conquered has crushed too many other species, not just mine, the Dorani, the Kasra, the Draven. The Pel, they are not just my allies. They are here because they chose me over you. I cannot walk away and leave them to be punished for choosing me. If I go, they go, and you know that is not a real offer. He was silent for a long moment, then slowly he bowed his head. You are right, he said. I had hoped the old ways could survive one more day. It seems they cannot, Commander Cross. We will fight well. I wish you a good battle. And I said. The screen went dark. I turned to my bridge. All ships, I said, begin. The Battle of Crystales lasted 9 days. I will not tell you every hour of it. I am too tired now, and you have heard enough of battles, but let me tell you this. On the 3rd day, my flagship, the Promise, was hit so hard that I had to move my command to a smaller ship called the Hope. The Promise limped out of the fight, but she did not die. A young Kasra captain took her command and kept her fighting for 6 more days. On the 4th day, Vorlog tried a clever move. He pulled his whole fleet into a tight ball and made our smaller ships come to him. For 6 hours we lost more ships than he did. I watched good captains die on my screens. I made myself keep watching. I owed them my eyes. On the 5th day, Peter came up with an answer. He used the twin sons of Crystales themselves. He bounced our scanners off the starlight in a way that blinded the conquered targeting computers for 3 full minutes. In those 3 minutes we destroyed 80 of their ships. They never got back what they lost that day. On the 7th day, Ellie led a small fast group right through the heart of the enemy fleet. Her ship was badly damaged. Her arm was broken, but she came out the other side and struck the biggest conquered battleship from behind. Vorlag's own flagship. She disabled it. But she did not destroy it. She radioed Vorlag directly and told him to surrender his ship and his crew would be safe. After 1 long hour he did. The day Vorlag stepped off his ship in chains of light, his fleet broke. Within 2 days, every surviving conquered ship had either surrendered or fled. On the 9th day, I took my shuttle down to the surface of Crystales. I walked through a city of glass towers that had never known war. The Valen people watched from their windows. They were not fighters. They had sent their warriors to die above, and now their warriors were gone. They stood in their beautiful halls, wearing their long robes, waiting for whatever would happen next. I had told my soldiers very clearly, no one was to be harmed, no home was to be taken, no tower was to be broken. Anyone who disobeyed me would answer to me directly. No one disobeyed me. I walked into the grand hall of the High Council, where for thousands of years the Valen had ruled the galaxy. Tall white stone columns rose into a ceiling of colored glass. A long table of dark wood stretched across the room. At the far end stood the High Speaker, an ancient Valen named Sarto, with 12 advisors behind her. They were unarmed. They had chosen not to run. I walked to the table and stopped. Ellie, Peter, Frank, and Gabriel walked behind me. Noah Price from Ash Stone stood near the door with 10 human Soldiers, a HFY captain, and Almari, commander, and a Draven speaker walked beside me as well. I had made sure of that this was not only a human victory, it was all of ours. Sorotal looked at me with tired, ancient eyes. Commander Cross, she said softly, the galaxy is yours. Will you destroy us as we once tried to destroy you? The hall was silent. My own heart was loud. I thought about 8,000 years of sleep. I thought about my frozen crew. I thought about Kepler Reach and the desert people who had waited for us. I thought about Tess, now 12 years old, who liked to draw stars on the walls of her cave. I thought about every world I had seen, every face, every lost name. And I thought about what kind of leader I wanted to be. No, I said, my voice was clear. We will not destroy you. A breath went through the hall. The conquered is over, I said. That much is certain. The Snort's old order falls today, but we are not here to build a new order of fear only with a human face. We have learned too much in our long sleep to make that mistake. I turned and walked slowly along the long table, touching the wood. A new council will sit in this hall, I said. 1 seat for every major species of the galaxy, 1 seat for humans, not more than that. We will not rule, we will serve. The Kesra, the Almari, the Draven, the Pel, the Yuri, the Dorani, the Valen, and many others will all have equal voice. Laws will be made by all of them. Armies will be shared. Trade will be open. Worlds that were held will be freed. Species who were crushed will be lifted. This is the only victory worth winning. I turned back to Sorotal. Your people, I said, will have their seat too, not as rulers, as equals. The Valen will live. Your towers will stand. Your children will grow up under the twin suns as they always have. The old Valen closed her long fingers over her heart. Commander Cross, she said, you are a better victor than we were. I hope so, I said quietly. I very much hope so. That was how the war ended. In the months that followed, I spoke with leaders of every species across the galaxy. We wrote the first galactic assembly into being. We built the first joint fleet with ships and captains from every species. We opened sealed worlds. We fed starving systems. We rebuilt. Humans came out of hiding, from Kepler Reach, from Haven, from Blue Home, from Ash Stone, from every small colony that had hidden in the dark. They came into the light of the new galaxy, and for the first time in 8,000 years, our children saw other worlds with their own eyes. Tess, the little girl from the valley, grew up fast. She was smart and strong and full of questions. When she was 16, she became one of the youngest captains in the new fleet. She came to see me one day and said she wanted to fly out into the deep dark and find the other worlds the conquered had lost. I told her yes. I told her to take a good ship and a good crew and to come home safe. She laughed and hugged me. She said, you are too old for more adventures. Uncle Adrian, let me do it now. Old? Yes, I suppose I was. Ellie became the first speaker of the new galactic assembly. She hated politics. She did it anyway, she said. Someone had to, and it might as well be someone who had seen the old war with her own eyes. She was a good speaker, firm, fair, and never afraid. Peter went into science. He spent the rest of his days teaching and inventing, surrounded by students from 12 species. He married a CAS engineer and had children who could speak 3 languages and run faster than any of us old humans. Frank Lowe lived another 12 years. He spent them writing down the full story of our long sleep and our return. Someone needed to remember, he said. He finished his book the month before he passed. It is still read today in every school in the galaxy. As for me, I stepped down as fleet commander after 3 years. I had done my part. New hands from many species needed to steer now. I moved back to Kepler, reached to the desert world where I had first met our hidden children. I built a small stone house on the cliff above the valley. I grew a small garden with real seeds from the old seed vault. I ate apples. Sarah Vale, old and silver-haired, came to sit on my porch many evenings. We did not say much. We did not need to. We watched the sun set over the red rocks, and sometimes little children would run through the valley below, shouting and laughing in a language their ancestors had almost forgotten. One evening, many years after the last battle, a young girl came up the path to my house. She was perhaps 8 years old. She had wide eyes and dusty feet. She looked up at me, at my white hair and my wrinkled hands. "Grandfather Cross," she said, "is it true that long ago humans were only a story?" I smiled. I thought about the cold sleep pod. I thought about waking up to a galaxy that did not know us. I thought about little Tess pointing her spear at me in the dust. I thought about every frozen face in the dead hull of my ship. "Yes, little one," I said, "there was a time when the galaxy had forgotten us. We were only a legend, a ghost story, told to scare young children to sleep." She tilted her head. "What happened?" I looked out over the desert. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and gold. I could see Ellie's ship in the distance coming in for a landing, bringing news from the assembly. I could see small shapes running through the valley, playing games under the early stars. "We came back," I said softly. "We came back, and we did not come back for the old kind of winning. We came back for a better one." She sat down on the porch beside me, small and quiet. "Will they ever forget us again?" she asked. I reached down and put my old hand gently on her small head. "Not this time, little one," I said. "Not this time. We are not a legend anymore. We are a family, all of us. Every species, every world, and a family does not forget." Above us, the first stars of the night began to shine. They were no longer empty stars, and they were no longer closed stars. They belonged to all of us. Now, the wolves had come home, and we had stayed to build a better house for everyone. That is the whole story. It is enough. The end.